Thank you so much for being here this morning. I'm going to hold this and then hand it off to speakers so that you can hear me more clearly. I'm Jenny Beth Martin with Tea Party Patriots Action. Welcome to the Only Citizens Vote bus tour. Thank you so much, Las Vegas and Nevada, for being here today. We are doing this tour because we are working to ensure that you have to that the government requires proof of citizenship to register to vote. It's pretty simple. Over 80% of Americans agree that only Americans should be voting in American elections for the American president, the American senators, and the American congressmen. It's something we agree on. The SAVE Act will ensure that we have proof of citizenship to register to vote. It has passed the House of Representatives twice, once in the last Congress and once in this Congress, but it has not yet been taken up on the floor of the United States Senate. We want it to be taken up and actually to get through the Senate so that President Trump can sign it into law. To do that, what we are urging Congress to do through this bus tour and throughout the month of September as well is to attach the SAVE Act to what is called must-pass legislation. Now, that is the kind of legislation that members of Congress think, if I don't vote for this, my constituents will be angry and something bad will happen. For instance, if they don't vote to fund the government by September 30th, our new fiscal year for the United States government begins on October 1st. If they don't vote to fund the government, then we go into a government shutdown. And most politicians try to avoid that. Now, sometimes you pick a fight and you do want to shut down the government. I think it would be very difficult to say, I'm shutting down the government because I don't want to require proof of citizenship to register to vote. That is one that would be very difficult for them to vote against and to prevent the funding of the government, especially when 80% of Americans agree on this issue. So there will be spending bills in the month of September. It may be appropriation bills, it may be a continuing resolution. We're trying to get it attached to that. If we are not successful in September, then we will continue in December with the National Defense Authorization Act and work to do the same thing. But we're first focused on September. So we're going across the country and we're asking people to complete our petitions, which you completed as you walked in this morning. On September 10th, we finish in Washington, D.C. And on that day, we'll be on Capitol Hill. We'll have an event on Capitol Hill, and then we're going to go into the halls of Congress on both the Senate side and the House side and deliver the petitions to the appropriate members of Congress. So the ones from Vegas would get the people, or from Nevada would get the people who are here in Nevada, and from California, we'd send it to the California senators and divide it up by the correct congressmen as well. And that is what we're working on. And then we are asking people to make phone calls, to have sign waving events. We're asking people to do sign waving events next weekend, or this weekend actually. And we have signs that you can take if you want to do one. So on this Saturday, the 23rd, we're asking people to go to a busy intersection, wave the signs, bring a few buddies, hold the American flag, and urge the passage of the SAVE Act. So the signs have different things on each side. We've got 2 different signs, 4 different messages. And then we're also asking you to take these petitions with you. And when you leave and you take the petitions with you, get other people to sign the petitions, and then just send a copy of it back to us at the email address on the bottom, and we'll deliver those for you in Washington, D.C. And it's hard to believe that we have to go through all of this to get this done. Now, there are some people who are saying, well, why it wasn't added to the one big beautiful bill? The reason that it wasn't is it requires 60 votes in the Senate to get through the filibuster. The one big beautiful bill bypasses that 60 vote threshold. And in order to bypass that 60 vote threshold, the items that can be added to what's called a reconciliation bill, which is what the one big beautiful bill was, must apply to the budget. They must apply to the federal government's budget. This is policy, and it doesn't have a major direct impact on the budget. It's much more about policy. Because of that, it was not able to be added to that bill. So that's okay. We couldn't get it there. So now we're working on the must-pass legislation path through appropriations or continuing resolution or the National Defense Authorization Act. But we're determined to get this done. And one more thing, and then I'm going to introduce some great speakers from here in your wonderful state, and also one other from the Immigration Accountability Project. And I completely forgot the other thing that I was going to say. So I guess it wasn't all that. Oh, I know. There are people who they've asked about why it couldn't be added to the reconciliation bill. We couldn't do that. And then there's some people who've kind of been upset with the Senate because it hasn't been brought to the floor in the Senate. Look, I think that the Senate should be working many more hours than they work. I work like a 20-hour day almost every day. I don't expect them necessarily to work that hard, but President Trump has over 100 nominees that are outstanding. I want these people confirmed so that they can work on President Trump's agenda. If they were taking up something that they don't think that there would be enough votes for the Democrats to get through the filibuster, and it wouldn't pass, then that is taking time from the Senate floor, which is very precious and is a bottleneck in the Senate process, and taking time away from the nominees. So they have to kind of juggle and balance what they're bringing to the floor when. And while I want them to work more and get the nominees handled, I also understand why they might be prioritizing nominees over this. So just understand that, and that's again why we're trying to attach it to something else that will be on the floor otherwise. And then the final thing I'm going to say is there are a lot of people in this room who are very concerned about election integrity. So you're not necessarily motivated to be here because of President Trump wanting to ensure we have proof of citizenship to register to vote, but you are concerned by and large about election integrity. This is one small sliver to help improve the faith that we have in the outcome of our elections. And there are a lot of other pieces with election integrity. The Election Integrity Network, which is one of our coalition partners, works on all of those other issues. And they're one of the partners here, and we're just going through and doing as much as we can when we can. This bill has been written, it's already passed the House twice, and we think this is low-hanging fruit and we should go ahead and get it done. It does not mean that we are abandoning other things for election integrity. We are still working on those as well. With that, I'm going to go ahead, and is Jill Douglas here? Okay, that's okay, no worries. Then we are going to go first to Jim. Jim, I did not ask how to pronounce your last name, and I'm going to butcher it. So, who is the National Committee man, and would you please tell me how to pronounce your name so that I don't butcher it in the future? And he's going to speak, he's your National Committee man to the Republican National Committee from the great state of Nevada. Thank you so much. How do you say your last name? Okay.
So yeah, the name is difficult. It's DeGraffenreid. Looks scary, but pretty phonetic. Well, good morning. Thank you all for being here this morning. We so appreciate Tea Party Patriots and their coalition, including Las Vegas and the great state of Nevada, on this bus tour on this very important issue in support of the SAVE Act. The Nevada Republican Party has two goals. Our first goal is to turn out as many legitimate votes as we can for our candidates, and the second goal is to make sure that every one of those votes counts. That's critical here in Nevada because the Democrats, our legislature, and the Secretary of State don't always play by the rules, do they? Over to the west of us, Gavin Newsom is crying fake crocodile tears over so-called gerrymandering in Texas. He's threatening to retaliate by gerrymandering California, as if you could gerrymander California any more than it already is. Democrats in California make up 45% of registered voters, and yet Democrats hold more than 80% of their congressional seats, 43 out of 52. Here in Nevada in 2024, our Nevada legislative candidates as a group got tens of thousands more votes than the Democrat candidates got as a group, and yet we all know what the legislature looks like. The Democrats are just almost in a supermajority in both houses. At the federal level, our Republican candidates for Congress in 2024 got 158,000 more votes than the Democrat candidates as a group, and yet they hold 75% of the seats. I don't know about you, but it looks to me like drawing fair maps in Texas is trying to just level the playing field. It's not about trying to get some kind of a partisan advantage. Any talk of retaliation from Gavin Newsom or Pritzker in Illinois or any of these other blue state Democrats is just utter nonsense. But are we going to roll over and wet on ourselves here in Nevada? No, we are not. We closed the voter registration gap, which was as much as 100,000 votes with the Democrats, and we are almost even with them right now. That means even with our gerrymandered Nevada maps, we have a good chance of picking up 3 seats in our state Senate, and we have the ability to play in all 3 of our congressional seats this year. And we have a path to victory in all 3 of these southern congressional seats. We got great battle-born and tested candidates in the races. You're going to hear from some of them today. Let's get behind these good candidates and do this. Will you promise me that whoever comes out of the primary, that we will support them in the general? Any one of our candidates is far better than Susie Lee or that guy from Virginia, Steve Horsford. We just need to make sure that we get our candidates elected. My notes are bad. So we work extremely hard with our data and our field programs to identify voters and get them to vote. There is nothing worse than a vote gets cast and it isn't counted, or when it's canceled out by somebody who isn't eligible to vote in the first place. The SAVE Act directly addresses this problem, and it's so critical that Congress approves this bill and gets it to President Trump's desk. President Trump believes strongly in election integrity at all levels, whether that's in-person voting, paper ballots, or voter ID, which, by the way, we will have in Nevada if all of you get out and vote again for question 7 on the ballot next year. So critical that we get that done. One of the cornerstones of election integrity is that only citizens should vote. In support of that, President Trump issued an executive order on March 25th of this year, and in that he points out that several federal laws prohibit foreign nationals from voting or registering to vote, and yet states fail to adequately vet voter citizenship. When the Nevada GOP asked our Secretary of State after the 2020 election to investigate the potential of some votes being cast by non-citizens, she actually came back and told us that election officials cannot lawfully require documentary proof of citizenship as a condition of voter registration. Can you believe it? I mean, why would courts say that you cannot enforce federal law? What other nation on earth would say that you cannot have verification that citizens are voting? Pay no attention to naysayers that say that requiring proof of citizenship disenfranchises voters. That's the usual response from those that don't want fair elections, but it's absolutely not true. Here in America today, we all know that you need to have what they call a real ID to get on an airplane, to travel about the country. That requires no different documentation than the SAVE Act. Shouldn't we secure our elections, the very foundation of our republic, as well as we secure our travel? I think it's just very basic. I can assure you that when Congress sends the SAVE Act to President Trump's desk, he will sign it in a hot second. I want to thank again Tea Party Patriots for putting together this tour and putting a spotlight on this very important issue. Please reach out to your members of Congress. Doesn't matter if they're Democrats or Republicans. Let them know, respectfully of course, that they work for you and that you expect them to uphold fair and secure elections in the state of Nevada. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Jim. One of the questions that we get, he mentioned the real ID is, well, and objections that you may get from local people who administer the elections is, well, in states that require voter ID, they'll say, well, we take the real ID. And that's correct. And you do have to show proof of citizenship to get your real ID. The catch is that non-citizens also can get a real ID. And the real ID does not mandate that you indicate on the ID whether the person is a citizen or not. So it is the same documentation to get the real ID. Just remember, the real ID allows more people than what is legal for people to vote. The next person we are going to have speak is Bobby Kahn, who is a congressional district candidate. He's a candidate for Congressional District 1. Bobby, please come on up, and let's hear from you.
Thank you for having me. Hi, guys. How are you? First off, I'd like to thank Chairman McDonald for telling me to come here and speak. I'm not a traditional candidate. I'm not even a politician. I didn't want to be. But I'm fighting here because I got tired of the system. And one of the things with the system is voting. I need an ID to go buy cigarettes. I need an ID to go buy beer. I need an ID for basically anything, but I don't need an ID to go vote. But if people that come to this country, they become American citizens. And one of the things, the hallmarks of becoming an American citizen is being able to vote. If everybody's allowed to vote, why should I become a citizen? Why should anybody want to do this? I don't even know why we're having this conversation. This should be common sense. This should be something that everybody should be getting on it. But the problem is if you don't do this, cheating allows them to keep control. And control is what they want. And I'm going to veer off a little bit. And it's that control is the reason that President Trump ran for office, and they did everything they could to knock him down because they want power, right? And here in our state, we have 3 Democrats that are in Congress. They've been in Congress for ages. The Democrats have run. I got tired of the system, and I got tired of weak candidates. And if we want to change the system, if we want things like this to be in effect, we need people that are going to go out there and fight for it. And that's when I decided, you know what, when nobody else is strong enough to go out there and fight, I'm going to go do it myself. Regardless of who I am, regardless of what my past is, we just have to really, this election is very important for us. If you don't think so, we just think back 3 years ago. 3 years ago, what they tried doing to President Trump. If we don't win the House, again, if we don't win seats in Nevada, those impeachment inquiries, everything's back again. Last week, there was an event in this place, and I sat back and I looked. There was 5 guys on that stage. Most of them were convicted felons, right? Roger Stone, convicted felon. General Flynn, Rudy Giuliani, he didn't get convicted, but he was charged, along with a couple other speakers. And as most of you that do know me, I'm a convicted felon. They came after me, tried locking me up for 40 years the first time, and I went to trial and I beat them and I walked away. But that painted a target on my back. 10 years later, they came after me again, and that turned into a 10-year battle, costing millions of dollars. And I had to finally settle because fighting the federal government is like fighting Mike Tyson in his prime with your hands tied behind your back, blindfolded. Eventually, you're fighting somebody that prints their own money and won 2 world wars. You can't stand it. We saw a billionaire ex-president spend $40 million in legal fees. The next guy that's going to run for president is not going to have that kind of money or the strength to get up and fight. And that is why it's important, why we get things like this passed, why we get people like us that think like us in power. Because otherwise, if the Democrats keep control, you might as well kiss this country goodbye. You know? So please, I don't care if it's Dina Titus or Stephen Horsford or Susie Lee. You got to tell them, go pass. You got to tell your friends, you got to pass this. This is important. Otherwise, your kids, they don't have a future. This is not the country we grew up in, and I don't want to leave this country behind knowing that we failed. So I don't want to take too much of your time. If you guys are here local, Thursday night, I'm having a big event. There's going to be some celebrities there. If you watch the show Yellowstone, one of the actresses from Yellowstone is going to be there. Come to my event, please, okay? I would love to have you guys there, and obviously you can hear more from me as well. But Tea Party Patriots, thank you very much. Let's do what we can to help this. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Bobby. Thank you. And Bobby is right. We all have to stand up and fight. President Trump fought, and fights for us, and we've got to make sure that we are fighting for our country. The next person who is going to speak is Jesus Marquez, who is the co-founder and director of operations for American Christian Caucus.
Thank you. All right. So thank you very much for having me here. Good morning, everybody. I know most of you already. We have done many projects together. I see very familiar faces. But I want to first start with thanking Jeff Davis from the Tea Party Patriots Act and all of the organizations here present. I want to thank the CCRP, the GOP of Nevada, and of course the Ahern and all the candidates that are here. Just keep the work going. You guys are doing a fabulous work, and we are just honored to be part of it. My name is Jesus Marquez. I'm the executive director for the American Christian Caucus, and we are an organization that are mobilizing churches across the state of Nevada. we are also partnering with the different organizations like the Tea Party Patriots Action and many others. We just recently met in Washington, D.C. I was in the White House about a week ago. We are working very closely with the Trump administration in mobilizing and continue to doing the work that we did in the past election with a lot of the groups here. This Only Citizen Bus Tour is about one simple and powerful principle. Only American citizens should decide the country, what the direction of the country is. We're not to allow other people to just come to our country, invade us, use our resources, and on top of that, decide what elections and what candidates should win. That is just ridiculous. It's just common sense that we shouldn't be doing this. Like this sign here in the back says, 80% or more of the American population supports this act. The SAVE Act is something that is just about common sense. It's not partisan. Many Democrats support it. Many nonpartisan people support it. And it's just common sense, right? Who doesn't agree here that we should just allow American citizens to vote in our elections? Is there anybody here that will not support this act? I mean, it's just ridiculous, right? So we need to stand behind this organization and others that are fighting for this. Like she said, we're going to be doing phone calls. We are going to be participating in all that. And anything that you can do to help the cause and the coalition will be greatly appreciated. I'm going to be going back and forth to Washington, D.C., but the main work is done here at home. This is where you do the most damage, if you may, to the other side. The election cycle is coming. We need to be prepared for that. But also, before the election, we need to make sure that, that this act goes through and passes through our Congress. And it's going to be hard. It's going to be a tough fight, but we're tough fighters. Yes, we got Donald Trump elected in the last cycle because of you and all the organizations here and everything, the wonderful work that everybody here did. And by the way, how do you like President Donald Trump in the White House? Isn't he, right? I mean, he's doing a great job. He's putting order, not just in our country, but abroad, and bringing peace deals, fixing our economy, fixing our border. In the last month, there was 0 illegals coming across the border, and that's actually a victory for our country. So let's continue the fight. Let's help Donald Trump save America, and thank you very much. God bless you.
Thank you, Jesus. Hey, Jesus, what is your website if people want to get involved with you?
Sure, it is ACC at, hold on, Chris? .org, yes, ACC.org.
ACC.org for those who are watching on the live stream. All right, next we have Chris Shimolinski, who is with the Immigration Accountability Project. He is on the tour with us, and they are one of our coalition partners. They do amazing work helping to ensure that we have a government that follows the immigration laws, and they make sure and fight and have been fighting, he and his co-founder Rosemary Jinks, fighting against amnesty being granted to people who've entered the country illegally for more than a decade and a half that I've known you. So with that, we're going to hear from Chris.
Good morning, and thank you. Again, my name is Chris Shimolinski, president and co-founder of the Immigration Accountability Project. First, I want to thank all of you for coming out this morning, and I'd also like to thank Tea Party Patriots for hosting this bus tour. As Jenny Beth mentioned, we are one of the coalition partners for the Only Citizens Vote coalition, and we feel very strongly that the SAVE Act should get passed into law. And you may be wondering, okay, what's the connection between immigration and making sure that only citizens can vote? Well, to me, it's pretty obvious. The immigration system, the immigration policies in this country drive the non-citizen population, and those are the greatest threat to our elections today. I want to just start by giving a brief overview of what our immigration system looks like. We essentially have 3 different categories of non-citizens living here in the United States. Your first group are going to be your legal permanent residents. These are your green card holders. These are people that are eventually going to become U.S. citizens or have the option of becoming U.S. citizens if they would like to. The second group is a group of temporary visitors. These are foreign students, guest workers, tourists, family coming to visit family that lives here in the United States. These people are here for, could be 6 months, could be a week, could be 5 years. The amount of time that they're here varies. And then we have that third group of people that are in the country illegally. I do want to highlight the point that there tends to be a big misconception that the number of illegal aliens currently living in the United States is the largest group of non-citizens, but it's actually dominated by the people who are here, that are people here legally or authorized to enter the United States, whether they're here temporarily or whether they're here on a path to citizenship. But I do want to highlight that group that is here illegally, because up until 2020, this wasn't as big of a threat to our elections here in the United States. Became very difficult. If you were in the country illegally, it was very difficult to obtain the documents necessary to register to vote. Typically, the most common documents used are a driver's license and a social security card. If you have those two documents and you're willing to just check a box acknowledging that you're a U.S. citizen, you can fill out the federal voter registration form, and it's very easy to become registered to vote here in the United States. But what the Biden administration did under Biden-Mayorkas policies was they allowed all of these illegal aliens to come into the country, and they granted them either parole or temporary protected status. And by doing that, that allowed them to obtain a work permit. Once you get a work permit, Social Security wants their piece, so you're going to get a Social Security number. And then, of course, we know that we have more than a dozen states in the United States that already give driver's licenses to illegal aliens, and a number of other states that simply just don't have a policy. So it's somewhat ambiguous in these states. They don't outright prevent illegal aliens from getting a driver's license. And I want to highlight, or I want to point out that just because we have Real ID, all Real ID does is proves that the person who's actually holding on to that ID is that actual person. So if you're in the country legally, but you're not a U.S. citizen, you can still get a Real ID. So for example, if you're here on an H-1B visa, which is a high-tech worker visa program, the high-tech visa worker program, you can get a Real ID here in the United States. So that does not prove U.S. citizenship. There are other documents that prove U.S. citizenship. But again, going back to that federal voter registration form, by granting all these individuals that are in the country illegally parole and allowing them to obtain a driver's license, allowing them to obtain a Social Security card, it makes it very easy for them to fill out the voter registration form. Now, at last count, 2024 census data, there were about 30 million non-citizens living in the United States. That's illegal aliens plus the people who are legally authorized to be here. That's a pretty big number. And what we saw under the Biden administration was they were trying to flood as many people into the United States as possible to try to pad those voter rolls and create a permanent majority. So that's what we need to stop. That's why we're here today. That's why we want to pass the SAVE Act, get it signed and get it to President Trump's desk, get it signed into law, and ensure that no citizen's vote is ever canceled out ever again by a non-citizen. Thanks again for coming.
Thank you so much, Chris. All right, next we have Evan Syett, who is a comedian, and he lives here in Las Vegas now, and when I met him, he lived in Hollywood. So come on up, and he's also a political activist.
Well, I am a political activist more than a political comedian these days, especially at 9 o'clock in the morning. This is a tough gig because, one, the issue is so obvious and so self-evident that I don't know how much I have to go into the specifics, and I'm glad other people did. It's surprising, it's amazing, it's sometimes heartbreaking how self-evident so much of politics is these days. You know, who the good guys are, who the bad guys are. It's kind of hard, perhaps, when you get to the specifics of policy. But when you get to, hey, I'm on the side of Israel and I'm against the Islamic fascists. You know, hey, I'm on the side of the law-abiding and against the criminal, or I believe that only citizens should be allowed to vote. That's so self-evident, and it's not a matter of bigotry, it's not a matter of racism, it's not a matter of any of these things. It's a simple matter of commitment. It's a simple matter, and we didn't invent this law. This is how it's always been, and it's how it is in virtually every country, in every way across the world. So if it's so self-evident, why doesn't the other side see it? And that's actually how I've made my name, especially as an activist, is understanding how the political left thinks. Because it's easy for us to say they're all Marxists, but my cousin's not a Marxist. My cousin's not smart enough to be a Marxist. My cousin hasn't read Das Kapital and decided, yes, that's a better economic system. He simply doesn't know what we believe. Partly because we've allowed them to own the media, but that's no longer true. We now have a very good part of the media. In fact, we keep winning the media war. But it's also because we have not had the courage to go out and speak one-on-one. We don't want to fight. We don't want to insult our friends, our neighbors. We don't want problems at Thanksgiving. But we don't have the luxury to not do that any longer. And I know sometimes we think, well, what difference is it going to make if I convince my cousin? That's just one person. I mean, they own the media, but we own the truth, which means that they can hit 1 million people at once. We have to be 1 million people telling one person the truth, one person at a time. And that's where you do it, is with the people who trust you, the people who love you, the people who know you. It's just a little bit harder for my cousin to call me a Nazi than it is for him to call Tucker Carlson a Nazi, than it is for him to call Sean Hannity a Nazi, people he doesn't know. Specifically because you know these people, these are the people that you need to approach. These are the people that you need to talk to, but that means you need to know what you're talking about. And that's why it's so good what Jenny Beth is doing, what these other speakers have done to provide you with the ammunition because we're right. They just don't know that we're right because we don't tell them that we're right. We don't talk to them about it. So I have a program I call Adopt a Democrat. All right, you find one person in your life who you know isn't a left-wing fanatic. They've just never heard from a Republican or a conservative what a Republican or a conservative believes. Where would I have heard it? Okay, let me tell you my story just a little bit. I'm a New York City-born Jew in the entertainment industry. I voted Democrat my entire young adult life. It wasn't a thoughtful position. I wasn't a leftist by any stretch. I just knew what all Democrats know. Democrats are good and Republicans are evil. I'm good. I must be a Democrat. Democrats like peace. Republicans like war. I like peace. I must be a Democrat. Democrats like air. Republicans hate air. I like air. I must be a Democrat. What changed me was 9/11 came along. And 9/11 didn't surprise me. Okay, I didn't know the dates, I didn't know the targets, the amount of carnage literally sickened me. But I knew just enough, even as a brain-dead liberal, I knew just enough about the world to know that the same people who were murdering the Jews of Israel for no other reason than that they were the closest infidels, who were murdering the Hindus in India for no other reason than they were the closest infidels, who were murdering children in Beslan, Russia for no other reason than they were the closest infidels, would, when they could figure out a way across those giant oceans, come to get the big infidel, the great Satan. What changed me was not 9/11, it was the liberal response to 9/11. The idea that we deserved it, that it was the chickens coming home to roost, and that the way to prevent further attacks was to be nicer to the terrorists. Well, this was insane to me. And so for the first time in my life, I had to think, if that's what they believe, am I one of them? And I had the expression, the first time you think is the last time you're a Democrat. And so it wasn't just on this issue. I began to think about every other issue one by one by one by one. And so I went out and I sought out a Republican gathering for the first time in my life, and I expected to disagree with them on every issue. And I walked into that room and I heard something I had never heard from a Democrat. I heard people who could argue in the affirmative for what it is they believe. They could tell you what they believe, why they believe it, how it works, where it has worked in the past. Every argument you hear from the other side is negative. All right? Vote for me because they're Nazis, they're fascists, they're Hitlers, they're racists. So you need to empower yourself to be able to argue in the affirmative, and that's why these meetings are so essential. Okay, so you adopt a Democrat, and one mistake we make, and I'm going to finish up if that's all right with you. We are so self-evidently right that we expect that if we just talk to them, they'll get it and they'll change right away. And when they don't, we get angry and we get frustrated. How can you not? It's like adopting a child. That's why I call it adopt a Democrat. It's like trying to get somebody out of a cult. It's a process. All right? So over time, make your point and then move on. Smile. Have a good time with your cousin, your nephew, your uncle, your aunt, your colleague. Don't fight with them. Lay out your point, and one by one by one by one, you will change people. I have changed people. I changed myself. Bill Maher, my old boss, is coming our way. All right? How many of us started out on the political left and now vote along with the political right? As Winston Churchill, and this has been said in a variety of different ways, all of them attributed to Churchill, but if you're not a liberal when you're young, you have no heart. If you're still a liberal when you're older, you have no brain. All right? We are the brains, and that means that we need to be the thinking people, the people who know what we're talking about, and the people who have the courage to take it out. So I'm glad to see everybody here, and I look forward to seeing you guys on the road, just one-on-one. Keep this in mind. We think that we can't make a difference. If every one of us changes just one person, we've doubled our numbers. All right. Beth, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Evan. Our last speaker is David Flippo. Did I get it right? David Flippo? And he is he's a candidate also for Congressional District 4, and he's here to tell you why he is supporting the SAVE Act and joining us this morning.
How we doing, Nevada? Whoa, that was probably a little close. All right, we'll get it right. I tell you, what a great time to be alive, right? We had to see what the worst was, and we just did that with Biden. And now we're seeing what Trump's doing. 200 days in, and he's made so many changes. And we wouldn't have things like the SAVE Act right now if President Trump was in office. So things like this are critical to our country. Sometimes we have to know what's bad before we know what's good. And I'm just excited because President Trump is our president right now. Thank you. So I'm Dave Flippo. I'm running for Congress, Congressional District 4. Sorry I'm late. I was actually on my way up to Lincoln County just now, and I got a call, and they said, hey, come on down. So I turned around and came back, and I got here just in time, so thank you. Yeah, so we're having a meeting up in Lincoln County. My district's pretty big. It goes all the way up to Smith Valley, if you know where that is, almost up to Carson City. They got me going from Lake Las Vegas, right, and then around almost north of Lake Mead, and all the way up to Mesquite and Pahrump. It's quite a big district, so I do a lot of traveling. But I'm here today to talk about the SAVE Act and why it's so important. I think it's more of an 85% issue. And if you look at what happened in the last election, right, it's an overwhelming popular bill. It's got to pass one more, or at least at the state level, it needs to pass one more time. But when we got the federal side looking at things, and hopefully President Trump's initiative to have federal elections done in person, if we can get that, there's going to be so many things that affect this election. Because the states are going to have two options at that point. They're either going to have two separate ballots, one for the federal and one for the state, or they're going to have to combine it, and they're going to have to follow the federal rules. So there's a lot of things going on. And what's important to Nevada is the Secretary of State. we have to win that one. Okay? If we want to change our state elections in Nevada, we got to have the state Secretary of State. Okay? So I think there's going to be a couple good candidates in there. I think there's one coming out soon that I think everybody will be happy with. But let's get behind this SAVE Act. Let's get behind it because it's the right thing to do. It's the 85% solution to this country and fixing the problems that we have with our election integrity. So thank you for the time. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Dave. Okay, our bus is outside. It's only allowed to be out there for like 5 or 10 minutes, and we only have about 7 of those minutes left. So what I'm going to encourage you to do is go outside. We're going to do a quick video, some photos by it. You'll go out to the right. We have T-shirts. If you did not get a T-shirt when you walked in, after we do the video outside, then you can come back and grab a few T-shirts, and make sure you get petitions to take to sign those. Thank you guys for being here. Let's go look at the bus.